Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard, brought to you by our sponsor, The Great Game of Business. I'm Loren Feldman. I'm here with Gene Marks. Welcome, Gene.
Hello, Loren.
Great to have you here. Gene, you wrote a piece recently in which you described your own kind of adventures in digital marketing. It was a really interesting piece. Can you tell us what you did?
Yeah, so this is a piece I wrote for The Guardian. Usually it comes out on Sunday, but my editor liked it so much he put it out during the week, which, and wow. He was right. No, I did. I mean, I got like a lot of feedback by email and also online.
It's a great piece.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It was just a real life piece. I mean, as you know, and people listening know, my company sells CRM software. So always looking for leads. And I'm like, hey, I'm active on Twitter. I have a lot of followers on Twitter. I'm like, I like Twitter. That's another conversation for another day.
Gene, you have 126,000 followers.
Yeah. I don't know how many of those are bots. We'll get back to that soon.
That's only 123,000 more than I have.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't even know how many of those are actually real. But okay, fine, whatever. It's good. I get a lot of news from Twitter. I'm only saying this because I'm about to shit on Twitter. But okay, so an X, excuse me. So but I get a lot of news. I laugh a lot. I follow some funny accounts. And I engage with some people on it. I'm good with Twitter. I really am. X, whatever. So I'm like, hey, you know what? There's an audience out there, I think, that would. I wrote a book, okay, and it's a book on CRM. It's a compilation of my Forbes columns and other material, and it's basically for anybody that's looking to buy a CRM or just wants to use their CRM better. So it's on my website. It's great. I created a special landing page for it, and I haven't done anything with it yet. Just starting to market it. And I'm like, hey man, like there's an audience on Twitter that would probably like to read this book, I think. So let's see. So when you post something on X/Twitter, it tells you, would you like to promote this post? And this time I'm like, sure, let's give it a shot, see how it is. So I figure I'll bet $50 and see how we do. Now, literally when you create a promoted post, it asks you, what's the objective of the post? Is it to have more engagement or to have more followers or to click on a link to go to your website, to have a website visit? And that was me, Loren. I'm like, hey, I want to click on a link. So I had a nice little graphic post. I had a link to the specific landing page for X that I created, because you got to track these things, with the URL. Hey, if you're interested in using your CRM system better or researching CRM, this book might help. Great. So I post it. It was a 5-day, $10 a day, total of $50. Clearly not, a big deal, right? However, X/Twitter gives you metrics for the post. It said like 29,000 people viewed this post, which is like, I don't even know what that means, whatever. And I don't care because I'm looking for leads. I don't really care if 1 billion people viewed this post. That's irrelevant to me. I don't care if people engaged with the post, to be honest. I mean, I just want leads. I want people to click on the link in the post like X promised and go to my page and download the book because it's a potential lead for me. So Twitter, X said to me, hey, you had, I forget the exact number, but it was almost 400 link clicks on the link in my post. 400, Loren. And I'm like, holy shit, this is great.
That's great.
Yeah. And I'm like, really, if it was like a third of that, I would have been thrilled. A quarter of that, 100, clicks. People download, that's like 100 leads. This is amazing. Except for one thing. I wasn't getting any downloads of the book. That's odd. Okay, maybe it's, it's not, Jeffrey Archer here. Maybe I'm dating myself by saying that, but, Stephen King. But you would think if 400 people clicked on the link, right, you would get, I don't know, 50 downloads. I don't know what that number would be, but something. Anyway, nothing, none, zero. I'm like, that's odd. So then I went on Google Analytics and I looked at that landing page, the specific page that was referenced in the, in the promoted, post. And, it had less than 10 views of that page, 10 views. And I couldn't even tell if they came from X or Twitter, by the way. It gives you the source, but it wasn't telling me that X or Twitter was the source of this. And I'm like, I don't get it. I like X is telling me that like almost 400 people clicked on this link. And yet my landing page is basically showing close to 0 views. Like, where is that disconnect? I don't get it. And what I also don't get, Lauren, this is what I wrote about in Guardian, like, I give Twitter, and it's not just Twitter, X, it's Facebook, it's Google Ads. You give them your money and then they charge you based on the clicks, but they tell you how many clicks it got, So it's like X and Twitter saying like, hey, Gene, guess what? You clicked, we got 400 clicks, then we'll take your money now, and I'm like, how do I know you got 400 clicks? So I couldn't figure that out. And then I asked some social media experts who, by the way, there's no such thing as a social media expert because they're all fucking clueless about this whole space anyway. And but the common answer that I get is like, well, clearly there's a lot of bots. The bots were clicking on the link. And I'm like, okay, so that's my problem. I mean, like there's bots on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or Google Ads. Like, fair enough. But like, you took my money, Twitter.
Let me ask you about that.
Go ahead.
If a bot clicks on a link, doesn't that show up as a visit to your landing page? Even if it's a bot, why wouldn't that show up?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think it's a bot that clicked on a link. And by the way, why is a bot clicking on a link? How does a bot even click on a link? I don't even understand how that works either. Is it literally like a robot with a mouse in front of it? Just clicking all day? I don't know. But right. I mean, you would think if it clicked on the link now, maybe because one social media expert told me like, well, they click, but then by the time the page loads, they've moved on somewhere else because it's all super fast and it's all whatever. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't count as a view of the page,
Okay. That makes sense.
I guess. But you know what? No, it doesn't make sense, Lauren. None of this makes sense. None of this. It is nonsensical.
I'm trying to understand where the discrepancy is. Did those clicks occur or not? And I guess we'll never know.
I don't know. And you know what I do know? I think there's some funny business going on. And I think there's a lot of small businesses that like piss away a lot of money on Google Ads and Twitter X promotions and Facebook ads, whatever. And they have the same problem. How do I know this? Because a bunch of people have emailed me separately or reached out to me online on Twitter, by the way, and said, yeah, this is like, I've had the same problem. You're absolutely like, this is not like a thing. So then like, can you succeed with online ads? Yeah, I'm sure you can. I mean, I'm sure you can, write in creative stuff, but my guess is that it's all about the money, Lauren. I mean, that's my guess. I mean, if I were to spend $1 million on a promoted, post, that would probably get the attention of the wizards behind the curtain at Twitter. And they would be like, oh, we should make sure that this guy's getting, spend $1 million with us. We want to make sure he's getting some clicks, but I just spent $50. They took the money.
They'd start buying the book themselves.
Yeah, they would buy the book themselves. And let me tell you something, they'd be a lot better off for it as well, because it's a very informative book. But no, they just took the money. They bought a couple of old fashions with it. And then they had a laugh on Gene Marks, and that's what happened. I'm convinced.
Have you run this kind of test on any other platform?
Yeah, not necessarily a test, but in all honesty, I have dabbled in online marketing with Google ads and YouTube ads and Facebook ads as well. And I can't come to you with like the numbers like I did here because I wasn't like tracking it. It's happened over time. So I don't have I can't go back and look at it. Here, I specifically have the numbers. I mean, I was tracking it specifically. Right. And I'm like, okay, it's crazy. And I'm telling you, what's crazy to me is when Twitter/X tells you you're getting 400 clicks and there's like no views on a web page. I just think that's like fucking bullshit. Sorry for my language, but no, I'm not sorry for my language. It's bullshit. So, and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating.
Did you report this to Twitter?
No, I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I've already wasted enough time and money on this. And what answers are they going to give me anyway?
You know what? You wouldn't be wasting your time because you'll get a part 2 article out of it.
True. It's not a bad idea.
You should report it and see what they say.
Yeah, I could. Maybe I will. It's not a bad idea. I could report it, see what their response is, which you and I both know is going to be a bunch of gibberish, and then that could be another piece. You're absolutely right. But I don't know. That's been my experience. If anybody is listening to this now and they've had a better experience or they've had more success on either Twitter X or Facebook or Google Ads, I am desperate to know how. I need to know, what is it? What is it? And again, I just want to be clear. When I did this promoted post, you don't have a whole lot of options when you do these posts on Twitter. I mean, it just says, do you want people to click on your link? That was one of the options. And I said, yes, here it is. Here's the link. That was it. There was no there's no keywords. There's no creativity. There's no whatever. It just is what it is. So, I'd like to see if people have had other success.
Before we move on to our next topic, there are a lot of smart business owners listening to this. If they're interested in actually reading your book, Gene, where should they go?
Like you said, they should go to Twitter and click on the link. No, if you go to my website at marksgroup.net, you'll see where the book is, and you can do it, or email me. It's fine. So
excellent.
Thank you.
Next topic. You wrote another piece about Jeff Bezos, and I got the piece was these 3 quotes from Jeff Bezos will change how you run your business. And I got to tell you, I never click on a headline like that. To me, that screams clickbait. Inc. magazine is always running. They always run posts with smart things Steve Jobs said.
I know.
20 years ago when he was still alive. It drives me crazy. The only reason I clicked on it is because you wrote it, and I was hoping it would be a good opportunity for me to make fun of you, but it turned out I thought it was a really interesting piece. This one too. You actually, it wasn't just clickbait. You actually had some substance there. Tell us about the 3 things Jeff Bezos said that will change.
A couple things. First of all, it's absolutely clickbait. It's on entrepreneur.com. I love my editors there. They're very nice. But they're like ink, it's the same deal. And I'm one of a million Jeff Bezos advice articles that's now on that site. And I didn't think I was going to be that guy, because I don't read them either. Because it's like, geez, you're just, Jeff Bezos in the headline. You're trying to get some clicks on the article. I don't want to be that guy. Here's why I was that guy. I'm a huge fan. Do you ever listen to Lex Friedman's podcasts?
Occasionally, not too often.
Yeah, he's so good. And they're like these long form conversations with iconic people and not iconic people. And he's a very good interviewer. And he had Jeff Bezos on for like an hour and a half, something like that, or 2 hours of a long form interview, which I love that stuff. And honestly, I don't think I've ever heard Jeff Bezos interviewed for that long a period of time. So I'm listening to him as I'm walking around the city, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy has got he does have gems of advice as we're talking. And it's all just, weaved into the conversation. It's not like he sat there reading off a list. It was a really good conversation. So there were 3 things I made notes of. I'm like, I really do need to write about these 3 things, because they are really good. One was, he talks about there are 1,000 ways to be smart, and he gave the example of how when he was in college, he was a physics major, and he changed majors to computer science because there were just people that were physics majors that were just a lot smarter than him, that just could figure out problems in minutes where it took him hours. And he realized that, and he switched it up and became a computer major. And he said he's applied that throughout his life, that everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. I was at a client a few years ago, and they had this guy, and he had been with the company for like 15 years. And he, they put him on this job of doing like inventory management, and he wasn't really good at it. And they were going to fire him. And I remember having this whole discussion with them, and we were talking about how you can't, this guy's got 15 years in with the company. He knows this business really well. There's got to be another place where he can serve this business and be, and we can profit off of him. And there was. They put him in the purchasing department, and he kind of flourished there. He happened to be really good talking to vendors and suppliers. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that's what Jeff, that was his first bit of advice, is every person in this world, even the biggest numpties that you and I meet standing in line, checking in for a flight, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, and we have to appreciate that, because if you can profit off somebody, you can profit off somebody. So that was number 1. Number 2, he talked about one-way doors and two-way doors. And I found that fascinating. He says that more than 80% of the decisions that any manager or business owner needs to make is a two-way door decision, which basically means if you screw it up, you can go back out the other door. You can fix it. You can do it over again. You can get away. 80%, 90% of decisions are that way. They're two-way doors, The one-way door decisions are the ones that are really big. If you screw that up, that could really be costly to your business. And he said like the smartest people that he knows, they can identify the two-way door decisions and make those decisions quicker, even with 70% of the information available, because they know they can always go back and adjust and fix it. And instead they focused on the big, expensive decisions, the one-way door decisions. And right? I mean, I thought that was pretty goddamn good advice. You know what I mean?
I think if I read you right, what he was saying was it's easy to fall into the trap of thinking every decision is a one-way door and that you get used to making your decisions that way.
Yes.
And then you apply it to decisions where it's just not necessary.
Exactly right. And I meet people like that all the time. I'm dealing with somebody right now at a nonprofit that I volunteer who spends time on minutia and making decisions about things where, our revenues are off in this nonprofit and this person's worried about, adding a general ledger account. Do you know what I mean? Like there's just, stop. You know what I mean? Like most decisions are two-way door decisions. Just make them and move on and focus on the big ones. So, okay. So there was that. And then the third one that I thought was really good was he was telling stories about where he would disagree with people on decisions, but even if he did, he would still commit. So, he had managers that reported to him. We all do. And, a manager would say, I think we need to, treat this customer this way or undertake this project that way. And Bezos wouldn't agree, but he would listen to it, out, and other managers would agree with that manager, or he would have a lot of respect. The manager's got a lot of experience and has more ears to the ground than Bezos is. And Bezos would be like, all right, well, I don't know if I agree with that decision, but let's go with it. And because he says, okay, we're going to make that decision and go with it. I'm 100% behind it now. Do you know what I mean? Like no dilly-dallying around. I'm not going to sit there and stab you in the back or undercut you. If I'm going to commit to it, we're committing to it. And that's the way it is. And I love that.
And no, I told you so.
And no, I told you so. And as an ancillary to that, he also said, it's even worse to compromise. It's like, when you're making decisions, like you have a group of people and you're like, all right, well, it's 10, it's 8. Let's compromise on 9. He says that's like the worst thing you can do. It's either 10 or it's 8. You make decisions based on the facts. A ceiling is either 8 foot tall or 7 foot tall. It is what it is. So he says, don't compromise. Just make your decision based on the facts. And then, whatever the decision is, even if you disagree with it, commit to that decision and move forward. And frankly, if it's a two-way door decision, you can always go back and adjust,
So I guess you basically decided to disagree and commit with the headline that they put in that story. Am I right?
That's exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much. I wasn't going to do this, and then I did. It's my fault because I'm the one that pitched to my editor saying I just listened to this great interview, and I think I would like to write about this, but I never thought I was going to be that guy.
It's a good story. You were right.
Yeah, never thought I was going to be that guy, though.
All right, last topic. You wrote about wage theft and how businesses can kind of fall into doing this inadvertently.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah, I wrote about that for the Philly Inquirer last week, and it's wage theft happens all the time, and sometimes it happens. There are lots of employers who willingly commit wage theft. That is, and that's not good. And I use some examples of some Philly businesses that stole tips and whatnot. But sometimes businesses commit wage theft. They don't even know they did it. They don't count for tips properly if you're a restaurant, or they don't classify workers the right way. And there are workers that are entitled to overtime. They don't get their overtime, or they're not paid the right kind of overtime, or they don't manage vacations in the right way. And so workers get cut out of vacation time that they had otherwise were due to them. And a lot of times workers don't know this or recognize it as it's happening. And then, I don't know, they're out drinking with their friends 6 months later. And they're like, wait a second, you only took those days off because you were entitled to other days. They find out, and then they hire an attorney, and then you're sued, and there's all these different forms of this. And even if you did it completely inadvertently, there are still potential fines and penalties if you were not in compliance with either your state or the Federal Department of Labor's rules, or, EEOC's rules, or, OSHA. So these are all things that employers need to be aware of. And in this piece for the Inquirer, I spoke to a couple of attorneys who offered some advice on just making sure that you're in compliance with the laws. And by the way, here's the spoiler alert. I spoke to 2 attorneys. Guess what their biggest advice was, Lauren? Hire an attorney.
To what? Come in and review everything and make sure you're kosher?
Yeah. Like your worker classifications and your titles that you're using and your vacation policies and how you're paying minimum wage. These are all things that if or how you're accounting for tips and reporting on tips. If you have a lot of hourly workers, these are all like important things to track.
Have you ever had a client who's had this problem?
No, as a matter of fact, that I'm aware of. I've not had it. I do have some clients, though, that I think could have this problem. And when I wrote this piece, I actually sent them a link to it and said, we should talk about this.
What are you working on now? What should we look for this coming week?
I just wrote a piece that will be out this week in the Chicago Daily Herald. Wait, what? What is that?
My favorite.
Yeah. It's a piece on earned wage access and same day pay. So it is, that's coming out this week. And then also I'm going to write for the Inquirer, Lauren, about, and I think I'm going to do it this week, but I'm going to write about, what happens if you get divorced and you're a business owner?
Ooh.
How does that affect your life? And how do you try to avoid the impact of divorce? And it is not a pretty picture. I spoke to a couple of divorce attorneys, and I know we're talking a week after Valentine's Day, but you might want to get flowers for your spouse.
I think that will be a very well-read story. I can't wait to see it. I've often wondered about that. I suspect there are a lot of marriages that stay together because of the damage it would do to a business. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's interesting.
I agree. So that's what's coming up.
Excellent. Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, The Chicago Daily Herald, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. This episode was brought to you by The Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Lauren. We'll see you soon.
Have a great week, everybody.